Welcome to True Crime for Life. I'm your host, Christina Vera.
And I'm your co-host, Maylin Sambois. Welcome back.
Yes, welcome back, Maylin. What will we be discussing today on our next episode?
You know, Christina cracks me up. We have talked about protecting our assets, right? Which hopefully when you listen to the last episode, you have to really take a deep dive into your own stuff and look at what's going on. One of the things that I've been very kind of involved in lately is I seen the hype, right? And not to get political, and we're not here to choose sides, but I seen the energy in the political realm, right, of what's happening right now with the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. Mm-hmm. And I think even as in business, sometimes you're challenged. So that's just where the idea that came to me. One of the parties challenged the other party, right, and wanted someone to drop off. And then when the contender that came up is a lion, now the former party's crying, right? So it makes me think about some of the things that we have gone through in our personal or professional career when someone challenge you, you know? And they will be, you know, I'm not sure sometimes when somebody challenges somebody, they sometimes don't plan for what are the consequences of that challenge, you know? And I have done that myself, and I have not been prepared for what comes after. So as this political climate is changing and people are freaking out, right? A lot of hope is in there, and I'm hoping too for the better of the country. I hope that whoever got things is the best candidate, right, for the country is the one that takes over and that guides our nation, because the next 4 years of our lives, you know, is going to be dictated by whoever this person is. But then it also makes me think that no matter who's in power, God is in power, right? So, but then what are we doing in our community to make sure that our community is okay?
Right.
What are we doing? Because it's not just like, I mean, you're in politics, but when I look at that, it's not just the person in power. Like people in our communities, our local elections are so important.
Right.
And for the longest, I never knew that. I never voted on my local thing. So I don't know who I wasn't putting nobody in the House or the Senate, okay, because I was not voting. I think in my lifetime, and I'm 42, I voted my first time for Barack Obama, loved him. And then after that, maybe I don't know that I voted after that for a while until I understood truly, like, you know, politics. So now, you know, as a nation is trying to make a decision, as we're like, I almost sound like a coach, guys. I don't even know football, but like we're in the last quarter, right? We're in the last quarter of pretty much like the election year, but also of the year. And it's making me think, are we ready for whatever is coming? Mm-hmm. You know, in our house, with everything that is happening, is our house ready for no matter what happens? I always joke, I have a passport. I'm going back to my country if things get sour. I really say that with the most respect for people, because I don't know that I want to expose my baby to like hate or anything like that, right? But is that realistic, right? Am I truly going to be able to leave the country? And if I can, is everybody else able to do that? No. So am I failing my community by looking for escape and not what we can do to support it? So even as an organization, right, and we're starting to evaluate a lot of things this last quarter to make sure that we are set in a position to really support the next 4 years, regardless of who's in power. I look at our homelessness situation here in Columbus, our housing situation in Columbus. Over the last few days, I got a few texts from people about to face eviction. And it was hard on me. I was like, man, like these are people that are working really hard. They're working multiple jobs. Some of them are single parents, and they still can make ends meet. You know, so it's like, what are we doing? Not just as humanity, but as leaders in our community, what are we doing to stop this?
Yeah.
You know, like what are we putting in place? And all of these people work in silos to solve a problem. And some organizations have millions and millions of dollars to solve this problem, and it's still not solved. So I wrestle, you know, with what is it, like, what are we lacking? You know, like I ask God, like, show us, what are we lacking? Because we're always thinking, what is the population that needs the most support? What type of women are falling through the cracks that need a lot of support? I don't know who they are. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, you know, but for what I have listening lately is what is single mothers, is single parents, fathers too, or families, right? They're together, they're working multiple jobs, and they still cannot make ends meet. So how are we, you know, I mean, I don't know if we're going to answer that today, but as we start to think, you know, us here, but you, wherever you are in the world, what are we all doing collectively, right, individually way to really like stop this and help people? right? Because whoever's in office can do a lot, but really the people in our communities are suffering. And up there, nobody knows who these people are, except you if you know them and they send you a text message.
Right. No, I mean, you said a lot. And so I think, the biggest piece, folks, the presidential election, we put a lot of weight on that as the leader of our country, but
Which is important.
it's super important, regardless of, your party affiliation. It to me, it should be about the person, and I've struggled with both sides of that coin because there have been questions about the people who have sat in those positions. It really boils down, I believe, to local elections. Who are the people who are representing you as a state, as a city, as a county, making sure that you do your research and know who those individuals are, and that you're meeting with them frequently and asking the questions and advocating for things that you're seeing in your community to ensure that they are representing us in a way that is reflective of what the needs are in our community. And it's hard because the needs are so complex. And I was talking to someone today about feeling like oftentimes that even we're in positions as elected officials, but we spend so much time fighting with other people who are also elected officials, or people who are supposed to be decision makers, but they're not there for the right reasons. So the work gets blocked. There's only so much you can do when you don't have people who want to see a change happen. Because if we think about historically, there's been profit in pain. There's been profit in, keeping people suppressed. And so, I'm not saying that that's completely why things don't improve, but I feel like a lot of these systems have been in place for generations. And, some of the solutions do seem very simple. So why can't we just implement them? Why can't And so you have to ask yourself, are we chasing, this a solution that's really just a dream? And I'm not saying that to be pessimistic. I think it's hard when you don't have enough people truly at the table who believes in wanting change and believes in actually being able to make change happen. And so, and I think it becomes tiresome. And I think it's not fair to put the weight of historic problems, generational problems, on a handful of people who signed up to deal with this. I think that the burnout and being an elected official, whether you're the president of the United States, a person in Congress, a person in city council, state rep, school board, what have you, the weight of the historical problems that you face in those seats, it is a lot. And people are angry and they're upset, and homelessness and, like you just described, eviction, mental health crisis, healthcare disparities. These are huge, huge problems that we're seeing not just in Central Ohio, but across the globe. And yet we're supposed to figure it out. And people want to see that right away. And, it's sometimes it's hard because people are like, well, what do you do all day? What do you, why isn't this fixed? And it's like, well, we didn't get here overnight. And I mean, I'm not going to be able to fix it overnight. And, so it's hard. It's really, really hard. And so I think I think you have to have grace with the people who really are trying, support, giving ideas, giving suggestions, doing your part. But we can't put all our eggs in a basket of just the elected officials. That is a component of it. But thinking about as an individual, like, how can you contribute within your household, within your neighborhood, within your, your community, your community at large? Because to me, I think based on what I remember as a child, or even what was described to me, is just there were villages where people took care of people. And, at the end of the day, no one's going to come and save any of us. The president's not going to come save us. Somebody from the White House is not going to come save us. Like, we have to build that village and community within our own, ecosystems. And I believe that that's a start. It's not the be all, but I don't foresee anybody coming from the White House to come and help us with the housing crisis here in Central Ohio.
You know, I spent a few days, well, almost days, but even a few days, weeks in conversations with different people from different areas of Columbus, let's say, right, or Ohio. And it's sad because the difference between a school district with the school district is so obvious, right? And you can blame it on social economics, but you have some districts where there's a first day of school or school night for the parents or whatever it is, and there's not enough parking spaces or spaces for the parents to park because they all come. Even if they're like, blended families, right? Like the step parents and everybody comes. And that's in some school districts. The kids are prepared well. They have a whole course or class in preparation for them to go to college, like how to apply. The parents are super involved and they invest money in making sure their kids get the best education. And then you have a different district that I'm sure wants to do that. It may not have the resources to do that, but the parents can do that because they're working two jobs, because there's only one parent. And the kids don't get that. They don't have a course. They don't even know how to apply for college. They don't know how to get the FAFSA done. If there's a class that's being shared for them, they haven't even heard, or they can't even attend because they have to work now, right, to make sure that they supply for their family, especially like Latinos, I think, and minorities. You sometimes have to work when you're young to make sure that you support your family. So I'm wondering, how do we bridge that gap, right? Like, how do we bridge the gap of knowledge that, not to be unfair, but that some kids are so ready when they get into college that they're not failing college. They come in ready because their school prepared them well. And then you have the other part where they don't get prepared and they probably fail the first semester because it's so much work or it's so much harder than maybe the whole time they've ever been in school. This is what college challenges them so much, but before they probably won't even challenge because the challenge that they got wasn't even that big of a challenge if you compare it to other schools. So I don't know, as you talk about building a village, right? How do we start building this village in these areas where the kids and the families really need the village, right? Because they don't have the means.
Yeah, I don't think it needs to be. I think sometimes we want to make everything so massive. Like, we got to help thousands of people. And I know, depending on the position you hold or the title you hold, or if you're an elected official, that's your job, right? I have to think about thousands of kids. But I think as an individual, who's in your immediate family? If you have a nephew, if you have a niece, if you have a couple kids yourself, if you have siblings who have children, it's like, listen, call a family meeting. Get with your siblings and say, listen, I know you got 2 kids, I got 2 kids. Let's be intentional and having, monthly check-ins about the kids' behavior, about the kids' grades. I'm going to get the kids once a month. You get my kids once a month. Let's, really, just as we're intentional about booking the trip to Miami or booking the all girls trip to Jamaica, or, being able to have brunch on Sundays or whatever you deem as a priority, I think it boils back down to making that a priority. And I say that, not that I do it, because I don't. But like my sister, I saw my sister yesterday, one of my sisters, and actually I have my niece at my house right now. So this is my first time having my niece in a while. And when she was small, she wanted to be with me all the time. She's almost 8 now, and she wanted to be with me all the time. Like,
she's almost 8?
Almost 8. She'll be 8 in December. And anytime my sister would call me, she'd be like, she wants to go to Titi Tina's house. Like, that has always been her thing. And, I have been so busy that I just don't have capacity to have her. Because in my mind, I don't want to have her at my house and then I'm not there, which I'm not there right now.
As we're having this
I'm not there right now. I'm not even there. But she wanted to come. Yes. And so I was like, okay. I took her with me after church. And I was like, you can come. You can go play for a little bit. I think he has to go to work. But when I come back, I'm going to take you to go get a couple outfits for school. So when I leave from here, that's what I'm going to go do. Aww. And then yesterday, my other sister came over, and she has a 9-month-old. Mm-hmm. And so I got to see her for a little bit. And, just seeing even how much bigger she has gotten since the last time I saw her. So I really, what I was in my mind when she left yesterday, I said, okay, I have to figure out a way, because we are, in my mind, and we've talked about this with the work we do with Femergy. It's just like to go and serve thousands of other people and our families are suffering. That to me, I had a guy tell me this, and me and this guy never really speak. And I never really even liked him. I won't say his name because he might hear this, but I never liked this guy. He was very condescending. He's had like 3 or 4 marriages. I'm not judging you if you've been married 3 or 4 times.
Listen, as many as you need to.
Yeah, I mean, until you get it right, But there was something about his energy. I just never liked him. It's just like you just got that feeling. There's something about him. And I remember having coffee with him years ago when I had just gotten in the real estate business. And, he has said to me, he has been in the business years. And I said, well, what advice do you have for me? Because you've been in it a long time and you've been very successful. And he said, I've been very successful, but at the cost of a marriage and a really bad relationship with my older children. He said, my advice to you is there's no business is worth losing your family over. He said, so whatever you do, you got to find a way to prioritize the things that make you money and the things that you love. I never had another conversation with this man ever since then. And that conversation has always stuck with me over the years because no matter what we do, as much as I love the work that we do, that I get to do in so many settings, it can't come at the expense of when the kids grow up, they were like, well, you was never there. Which they might still say that because I just got that advice like 5 years ago. So my oldest might actually be like, you was never there. I'm like, I didn't get the advice till you was about 15. So, she might still feel that way, but at least the other one's 15. So I might have a shot with Adrian, but I say all that because it was such a reality check. I was like, damn, you've been married 3 times. He's like, yeah, I lost my first marriage because I was so in the grind of trying to build and trying to be successful. And I was like, well, damn, you're right. Like I think about the years that we've put into building this and, I've sacrificed a lot. You have sacrificed a lot to be able to build a company, to be even now in, the other roles that I play in. Like that has impacted my marriage in a lot of ways. It has impacted my relationship with my children. It's so at some point I constantly have to ask myself, is this worth everything that I'm putting into it? Because it is impacting the things that I love, the people that I love. And so to answer your question, I think it's important that it doesn't have to be this very complicated plan. This is something that I've been telling myself. I said, what do I have to do that if at least once a month that I do a check-in with my sisters? What can I do? What can we do to support each other with our children? What do I need to do to check in with my husband? Like, what is it that you need from me as a spouse to be, whether it's, I don't know what that looks like. But I think that if we can start there, because I believe that if our home front is solid, then everything else we can figure out as we go.
It should fall into place.
It should fall into place because if all hell breaks loose, at least you can go home.
Yeah. Because imagine if everything breaks loose and you can't even go home.
If you can't even go home, like if your house is just as bad as what you're fighting, if your life is just like, if it's not to say that it isn't like that on days, because there are days it's inevitable. That's life. Right. We're all human. I have challenges in my marriage. I have challenges with my children. I have challenges in my job. But I feel like we have to make a conscientious effort to be intentional and supportive to combat that, or at least forecast for that. And the thought that you're just not thinking that this could happen to you, or you're not being intentional about, so how do we create the village? You got to make time for the village. You got to ask your siblings. Because my sister says something like, I don't expect people to help me with my kids. And it's like, no, you shouldn't expect people to help you with your kids. But at the end of the day, you should know that if something goes down,
Your
Like,
family.
somebody's going to pull up for you. And I think she knows that. Like, if there was ever an emergency situation, she knows somebody would come. So I think it's just about creating safety nets. And I think our generation, that has gone away to where now it feels like something is wrong or something is like, it's almost as if it's not a thing. Like, you're supposed to struggle in silence. Don't let people know that you're struggling with your children. Don't let people know that you're struggling with your husband, because it's like a private thing. And I believe that we have created this culture where you rather sink in your own ship than to be honest and ask for help and get what you need to actually thrive. So I think we have become too prideful and wanting to keep that to ourselves. And that's why villages are sinking all over the place.
Yeah. Because before, people had no problem saying,
Hell
hey,
no.
my kids are coming over.
Yeah.
You're watching them.
We were at Titi Evelyn's house all the time.
Right.
Shout out to Titi Evelyn, because she raised us. Yeah. I mean, my mother raised us.
Co-raised.
But my aunt, it was never a question. Like, she knew my mom had to work. We were going to Titi Evelyn's house. If, like, there was different aunts that would step in on any given occasion, and it wasn't just us there. There was other cousins there, and they had the smallest house, and she would feed everybody. We were there, and it got us through many and many nights where my mom was working, and she just had to do what she had to do.
I do love what you said about, prioritize, right? And that's a thought that I had as I was even coming in. I was like, wow, like, do you even know how your siblings are doing? Right? Because you're doing so much to save the world and everybody. Did you even know how your siblings are doing? Are they okay? Because at the end, I love everything that we do. I'm passionate about everything that I do. But I know when something was to happen, like, the people that would never recover would be your family.
Yeah.
Like, those closest to you, that talk to you all the time, that have your location, like, those will suffer because other people will think you're great. They may cry, right? Because you were a great person, but their lives will go on. There's not a time that I don't think about my auntie that passed and I don't feel sad. You know what I mean? Like, there's just certain people that you lost and you're like, man, like, that loss still felt. Even the years have passed, your grandparents, whatever. So, I'm grateful that we're having this conversation because it's not like, it's not to make you feel bad, guys. Like, we're always thinking about this and we sometimes forget. Sometimes we don't prioritize it because we're so busy trying to do the best we can for everybody around us. But it is true. If your family is well, then your peace of mind also is there to know that they're good. So then you can even be better for the world because it's hard for you to be good for the world when you know that the people closest to you are suffering. So I do like the idea of the village, and we're not perfect. So I think for me, a commitment is, yes, checking in on my people. Is there a monthly, which I started to do a little bit ago, a while ago actually, which is like the monthly.
You were doing dinners, right?
I was doing the dinner on my family once a month. Someone messed that up. But anyways, I was doing monthly dinners on my family. I'm not going to make names. But letting that go, there was a monthly dinner. And people have asked, like, when is that starting again, Because it was an opportunity for me to see cousins that I hadn't seen in a while. And even my own siblings that months go by, I don't see them. Like, I see you and my people here more than I see anybody.
Oh, right. I see you all the time.
I'm like, I don't see my sibling could go months. I don't see their face,
Yeah.
So I think it is important to put that in there as a priority, especially now that I have a little baby too. Like, he doesn't know. You know what I mean? Like, he knows you more than he knows my own siblings.
Yeah.
Because he's like, he sees you. He's like, Tia Christina. He don't know the people.
Yeah.
So, and that's part of the village too. So sometimes though, and we talk about family because we have our families, right? But maybe you don't have the family. Maybe you don't have that closeness to your family for whatever the reason is. I do believe in therapy. So if you're able to salvage that relationship, I would. I really suggest. And some people I remember having a girlfriend that couldn't stand her parents. And for the years, she would see me with my family, and my family has not always been rosy. Or my relationship with my mom has not always been rosy. It took a while to get here. But I remember telling her, I'm like, those are your parents. Like, just try and try. And I'm glad they tried because now her parents have become a great support for her and her child. Like, had she not had that relationship, her child will not have a relationship with her parents, right? And they have grown because people grow, you know?
Yeah.
So if you have a relationship with your family and it's not great, I say do what you can to salvage it, have therapy. Now, sometimes there's no salvaging, and we have to acknowledge that. And I want you to have peace with that. But then start building your village from the closest friends that you have, the people that have shown themselves to be trustworthy. But there is a village, right? It may not be blood, but there is a village, right? Because we're not blood related, but you will never know, right? Because the way we are. But, you know, I've been blessed to have Christina and other friends, but you may not, you know, have your family to count on. And that's unfortunately okay.
Yeah.
Find your village. You know, it doesn't have to be blood related. It could be the mom at the school that's single, that's struggling too. That could be a babysitter for you one night, and you could be a babysitter for her child one night too. You could start building. I mean, you and I built something slow, you know, through the years. Like when we met, it wasn't like, let's change the world. That was never the intention, I promise you. It was like, yo, can we support each other? Because I don't have that. You know, I don't have that honest, you know, no judgment, just someone that I could count on. And that's how you and I started. And they blew to this, but it was, I never saw this happening.
No, me either. No, I don't, neither. Like that was never the plan. This was never the plan.
No.
And it just continued to evolve. And the more people we met along the journey kept saying like, man, like you too. And it was just like, what?
What about us? What about us?
We're like, what do you mean? And I mean, and I think it's just because you and we are ourselves. Like, it's just like, you know, and I appreciate that I can be myself and you can be yourself. And, you know, we have honest conversations and you'll be like, I don't think you should have did that. I'm like, well, I did it. We're here now.
Oh, you'll be like, what are you doing?
Yeah. You know, I'm like, oh, well, where are you at? You know? And so I think it's just because I think when you have invested the years of really building the relationship, then I know, like, if you tell me something, it's because it's coming from the goodness of your heart. It's not about, you know, trying to harm me, or it's like, no, listen, this is what it is, or, you know, have you thought about this, or, you know, whatever the case may be, and I don't take it in any kind of way, or, you know, and I just think there you can build, like you say, your own village, and I think that is so critically important as you started this conversation. In a time where the world is going in so many different directions at a mile a minute, you can't control what the world is doing. And I think that's something that you have to come to terms with. As much as you see it on Facebook, you see it on the news, you hear it on the radio, it's like at the end of the day, you have to be able to shut certain things off, because if it gives you anxiety to constantly hear about things that you have no control over, then limit the amount of what you're intaking, and focus your energy on what you can control. You can control what kind of village you build. You can control who is in your village. You can control, you know, how you respond to certain things. And so, you know, it's not about perfection. It's about progress. So one day at a time, one conversation at a time, one habit change, one introduction at a time. And so I think, you know, little by little, you know, I don't know what the future holds. I don't know what tomorrow holds.
Right.
Today was already enough for me. I was like, this is only, I don't even know what time it is, but today was a lot. And really? so you know, you just take it one day at a time. But if you can find a way to bottle and capture peace, that's where I'm trying to spend most of my time. It's like, okay, how do I bottle my peace? Because if it's gonna take me outside of my peace, then I'm just like,
element, like Kendrick says.
Yeah, I don't want to deal with it. So anyways, thank you for tuning in. This was a good conversation. And until we catch you next time, remember, it's bigger than you.
Thank you so much for listening today. We're excited, and we hope that you follow us on
Instagram, True Print for Life, YouTube channel, also True Print for Life. And make sure that you share, like, watch our videos. Make sure that you follow us on all streaming platforms.